This is Amy Chan from CakeDecoratingSchool.com, and if you like cake decorating, you're in the right place. Welcome to our 3D flower cake series. In this video, we'll be doing a buttercream orchid cake. It's broken down into steps, so you can skip ahead, rewind, and rewatch as desired. We're going to make several colors for our cake project today, and we're going to start with a pink shade. We're using All-American style buttercream, but you can use whatever kind you like. We're going to use the following liquid gel colors: violet, neon bright pink, royal blue, coal black, lemon yellow, and finally a little bit, there it is, of sky blue. To start with, I've got my violet and my bright pink, and I'm just going to put a nice drop of that pink in there, followed by a few specks of that purple. Got it out on my lid. And I want to make a kind of nice, lilac-y, hyacinth kind of shade that's in between purple and pink. It has a bit of maybe kind of a mauve feel to it. If I need to, if it's too pastel still, or if I got too much purple in there, I can just add more pink. It's looking good. I think I just want to up the amount. I want it to be just a little more intense. There we go. I think that's going to be a nice shade for us. It's going to continue to develop and deepen a little bit. You can see it's a nice light tone in between shade. It's more pink than purple. And it should give us a nice bit of contrast for our blossoms, which are going to be mostly in green and yellow. Next, we're going to make some green, and this one is going to be kind of a medium tone shade. So we want to start with our royal blue. And some lemon yellow. There we go. And I'm just going to add a little speck or two of black and one of that purple. And just give this a mix around. See where we land, and if we need to, add a bit more of whatever we need. I think our drop of lemon was particularly large today. I do that sometimes. As you can see, it's looking a little bit heavier on the yellow than the blue, which isn't really where I want to be. So we're going to just go with another blue. Just get a little more of that in there. A little black. And a nice touch of that violet. There we go. And our pink is going to be the background shade for our cake, and this one is going to be for stems and leaves. So I really want something that has a little bit more intensity to it, a little more color. You can see it's almost like a jewel tone. It's feeling very emerald right now, and that's going to be gorgeous on top of that softer pink. Next, we're going to make kind of a barely there shade of almost like electric green. So we've got a little bit of our sky and a little bit of our lemon out, and we're just going to start with those. Just very, very tiny touches of each. We don't need a lot of buttercream, so we really don't need a lot of color at all. We just want to get that mixed around, check it out, make sure it's not too intense. If it feels too bright, then we can add just a little more white in there and soften it up. But I think this might be nice. We're going to be using this for petals. There we go. We have a nice kind of bright feeling green, but it's also very light in value. And you can see it has almost kind of an icy feel to it. That's just where we want to be. For our final color, we're going to make a nice light electric yellow. So we just want something that'll pop just a little bit next to that green we made. Give us just a little something different without being too different. So I'm just going a little bit of yellow and the ever so tiniest touch of black. And if you need to, when you're making your yellow, you can hold it up next to your green just to compare them, just to make sure they read as different, but are still pretty similar and close. And that's looking nice. I think I just need a little bit more yellow. I've got my green off to the side off camera so I can just look at both of them at the same time. There we go. Just needed just a touch more color. Beautiful. We're going to use 4 bags for this cake project. You can see that only one of them, our bag of yellow, is fitted with a coupler. The first bag with dark green, we're using a number 125. We're also using a number 5 with our green as well. So you can see we've loaded up a second bag of that dark green. Our ice green, we're going to be using a number 102. And finally, for our light yellow, we'll be using a number 264. If you don't have this one, try a number 101. It's a bit more of a common tip. It's ever so slightly larger, but you should be able to achieve the same effect. We'll also be using a number 59 and a number 5. We're going to review the techniques we're going to use for this 3D orchid cake now, and we're going to start with our petals. The first one is an oval shape. You want to think of ovals as an elongated version of your teardrop petals. So we're going to pull out towards the edge of the nail just a little bit further to elongate that shape. We're going to start at 130 and at 45 degrees. And the fat end will be anchored towards the center of my flower nail, and the skinny end will be pointing out. And you just want to think about pulling the middle of that tip straight out. And then on our nail, we're going to turn the nail here to get a nice rounded shape. And then pull back. I don't really have to rotate my hand when I'm on my nail, and this is a little awkward on my tray, but it's going to give us a nice elongated oval shape to those petals. For the diamond-shaped petals, it's the same bag setup, 45 degrees, 130, and we just want to think about following the shape of a diamond with the tip as we go. And on our flower nail, when we get to the top point, that's when we'll rotate, and that'll set us up to come back ourselves. So we just want to think about starting there, sliding out, up, rotating, and then coming back. We'll also be making little support fans with our 102, and these are just going to be in between petals to link them together. And we just want to pipe a little line, so just a little flat wedge that's right there on the surface. It's going to help join things together and support some of the petals that'll make up the second layer of our flower. We're also going to do some upright wedge petals. For these, the fat end of the tip is going to be anchored on the surface, and the skinny end is going to be pointing straight up for us. We're going to hold the bag 45 degrees and 6 o'clock, and we're going to be pulling directly towards ourselves. So we're just going to kind of glide along the surface to make a little ridge or wedge petal that's going to stick up for us and help make the centers of our blossoms. We'll also be making some cupped spikes with our number 59. For these, we just want to squeeze, let our frosting connect, and we're going to pull up and kind of flick towards the center of our flower when we do them. This is going to give us those two little kind of spikes that trail out from the bottom of our orchid. We're also going to make some little pillars. Think about these as lines that stand up. We're using a number 5 tip. It's also going to be with our yellow. And we're just going to start just above the surface when we're piping, bag straight up and down, squeeze a dot, and then pull up slowly. When we want to finish, we stop squeezing and circle around quickly, just like we would do with a dot. Those are the elements for our flower on this one. And if you'd like a more in-depth lesson on these orchids, you can check out the flower series video that we did on them that has a really thorough breakdown and lesson specifically on these flowers. You'll notice that we're just using some different tips in terms of the size because we're making smaller, more petite ones for this lesson. Test, test.
Action.
For our stems, we'll also be using a number 5 tip. We'll just be using the dark green for this. We're going to do a 45 and glide because we're going to mostly be on the side of the cake. And we want to make sure we have a nice smooth feed of our frosting. So we'll touch, start squeezing, just lift. So we're gliding along that surface and we get nice smooth lines with unobstructed flow. And when you want to end, stop moving, stop squeezing, make sure you're touching the surface for a clean finish, and then lift away. For our buds, we'll also be using our number 5, and we're just going to pipe teardrops. So you want to do 45-degree angle. The back of the bag is in the direction that you're going to be pulling, and you just want to start out touching, squeeze and lift, let it build, and then pull down and away to make contact. And that's going to give you a nice teardrop. We're going to combo 2 more of them, nice and fat, over top of each other to give it almost a round shape. And that's going to feel a bit like the bud of an orchid. For our leaves, we're going to be using a number 125. So this is a large petal tip. It's exactly the same as the oval petals that we did. And we're just going to do them bigger because of their shape and because the need to turn at the top and pull down and the fact that we want a really nice clean finish. We're just going to pipe these ahead of time on our large flower nail, have them chilled so we can peel them off and basically just stick them to the side of our cake. They're going to really make a nice big smooth leaf for us that'll give us a really nice beautiful finish. We're going to start piping our orchids now. We're going to begin with our bag of green that has our 102 on it. I've got my paper affixed to my small 2-inch flower nail, and I've got my nice little template on there that helps me divide it into thirds. This is going to give me a little guide for those first 3 petals to make sure they're pretty equally spaced. I'm going to anchor the fat end of my tip right there in the center, set myself up at 45 degrees and 130 for the back of the bag, and I'm just going to pipe. Pull out, turn, and pull back. And I've got my first oval petal. Now I'm going to go out to the side, and instead of going exactly on this, I'm actually going to kick it up just a little bit. I want the bottom to almost read as flat, so I want the space here to just be a little bigger. And I'm going to do the same on the other side. There we go. Beautiful. So you can see I've got a trio of petals, just got a little bit of a wider angle there at the bottom. That's going to be perfect. Now we're going to put those little support bands between the top petal and each of our side ones. So just one right there and one right here. Just pipe and spin a little bit to fill in that area. It's now time for our diamond petals. We're going to anchor the fat end right back there in the center. And I'm going to line myself up between my top petal and the one on the left. Bag is at 45 degrees and 130, and I'm going to draw my diamond shape. Nice and careful out there to the side. Once you finish the one on the left, go ahead and do the same for the one on the right. Out to a point, spin, and back to the center. Now it's time for a little upright wedges or upright fan petals, whatever we want to call them today. And we're going to just think about doing this kind of starting at the base of those diamond petals and pulling down just kind of in a straight line. So we meet up here with the bottom of those ovals. And we're going to do two, one to the right, one to the left, and just make sure you leave just a tiny bit of room in the middle. So we're just going to pull straight towards ourselves, one to the right and one to the left. Now I've got my number 5 on. I'm going to go right in the center at the top of those 2 petals that I just did and pipe my pillar. So dot, pull up slowly, stop, spin around. Now we're going to go in with our number 59. So we're just going to go at the base of those little upright wedges that we did, and we're going to pull one on the right side and one on the left side. So just move your nail as you need to, and that'll help create that little petal that kind of juts out at the bottom. So there you can see we have a beautiful little orchid. We've got some really nice, soft, icy colors, and that yellow is just a little bit different from that green. We're probably going to need 5 to 6 of these to complete our design. So I'm going to go ahead and pipe these, get them on a tray for myself so they're nice and chilled and firm and ready to work with. We're now going to pipe some leaves. I've got my 3-inch flower nail. I've got a nice piece of parchment on it. It's big, covers the whole space, and we're going to do a big oval. And I've got myself a big space to work on, and I'm just going to start there at the bottom of my nail. So a little different because we're piping a leaf, not in the center. Set myself up so I'm at 45 degrees and 130, pull up, spin around, and pull back. And you can see that makes a nice, big, beautiful leaf. And I'm going to go ahead and pipe 2 of these. I want them kind of nice and big and bold, but not too huge because we're just working on a 4-inch cake. So the next one I do will probably be a little shorter. I don't want them to be kind of too matchy-matchy, too similar to the same. I just want a nice, big, beautiful, smooth surface there so we have that look and feel of a leaf for an orchid plant. We're going to get our cake prepared so that we can work on it later. And we've got a 4-inch round. We've filled between our layers, coated it with a nice smooth layer of white buttercream, which is nice and firm. We're just going to make it really easy for us to coat it with that beautiful pink that we made earlier. So I just want to start with a nice dollop on top, and we'll work that around like we normally would. Spatula just back and forth. Think about opening that blade, rocking it side to side as you move. And then just go and create a nice, smooth, level surface. Just think about working that buttercream down slowly. You don't want to push too quickly because you'll get ghosting and show through on there. Start to see that white. We just want to create a nice little smooth layer of this beautiful pink. And that'll mean that the greens we use for our stems, our leaves, and our blossoms will stand out. And down here, we're just going to do the same. So once you go over the top, just go over the sides. A nice, beautiful, smooth layer of our pink. And anytime you need a little more, just add more to that spatula and keep going. It shouldn't take very long to work your way all the way around to the beginning because it's not a very big cake. It also shouldn't take too much buttercream, and we should have a little bit left over for ourselves, and that'll help when we go to place our beautiful orchids on our cake. Now, if you're new to doing your color this way, it might take a little practice. You can always make more of your pink and just coat your cake entirely in pink if you want to. That's fine as well. I like to do this because it uses less food coloring, and it kind of allows people to eat around it if they want to. A lot like fondant in that way. So once I get a smooth layer with my spatula, I'm just going to go over this with my bench scraper and my bowl scraper just to make sure those sides are nice and straight, nice and smooth, and we have beautiful even coverage there, so we don't have ghosting or show through. We just have a great surface to work on when we go to place our flowers and put on all of our beautiful details. And that bench scraper especially will help you get that nice, sharp, clean transition. And the last thing we have to do is just clean up that top edge. Think about opening the spatula so you can see the bottom of the blade just ever so slightly, pulling towards yourself while you spin your turntable, and that'll really act like sandpaper and just smooth down those rough edges. There we go. We just need to clean up our board a little bit, but we're looking good. If one pass didn't do it and it's looking a little bit, I don't know, questionable for whatever reason, give it a chill and then go over it again. And that should help you even out any little thin spots, layers, dips, or straighten anything up you need to. Our cake is nice and firm, it's chilled, that layer of pink is nice and solid and ready to work on, so we're gonna get started. And I'm taking just a little bit of my extra pink to begin with, and I'm gonna pick a spot where I want my little stems to come up the side and go over the top, and that's where I'm gonna start placing flowers. So I just wanna get that area ready to place some flowers on. So I'm just gonna place on a nice little dab of frosting, and I can always add more to it later if I want them to be a little higher up. But I just wanna kind of get that area prepared for that. So nice little kind of mound there. You can see I've kind of given it a little swipe up on the sides just to kind of make it faceted, but we're going to stick flowers to it and you won't even really see it because it's the same color of the cake. I'm just going to take a toothpick, lightly trace just a nice soft kind of curved line up there. And I'm just going to imagine where it goes up that mound. I'm going to pop out that bag of green with a number 5 tip that we haven't really used yet, except for some practice on our tray. And I'm gonna do my little 45 and glide, and I'm just gonna pipe a little line up here. So let's go. Let's start right at the bottom. Go with confidence, just glide right over the surface. If you get a little pop or a bubble like I just did, don't worry. And just go back and gently fix that. So I'm just gonna fill in right there. So don't worry if you get bubbles. Pops, they happen. If you need to, you can chill your cake first so that it's easier to join that up. They're relatively easy to fix, just real quickly with your bag. Now, I'm going to grab my flowers out of the refrigerator and start placing my blossoms. We're going to start placing our blossoms, and to do that, we've got a couple of them we pulled out of the refrigerator, not all because we don't want them to get too warm. I've got some more of my pink ready to go and my bag of green off there just in case I need it. But I just want to take a moment and kind of look at the height of these. And I want to make a nice little trail of them kind of going down off the side. So I want to start my first ones back here kind of up so it gives it a nice presentation where you can really see them. So I'm just going to swipe a little extra pink there to just kind of build this up, build up my little mound for myself, give it some extra height. And I'll just peel and place my first one nice and high up right there. So you can see it really kind of extends past the top of the cake, but it's supported by that mound of frosting. I'll turn myself around so I can see that back area. Just add a little more in there. So we can get it going at an angle. And you can see that kind of covers up that little mound to a certain extent. It kind of fades into the background when we start to do that. Now we're going to just come right here, get more of our pink on our spatula, and go right in front of it. Just get a little space between your groupings. Take your time, just a gentle little swipe there on the edge. I try to avoid my flowers, but think about making it almost like a triangle shape. So it's kind of almost faceted We're giving a nice little place for our next set of blossoms to hang out. I'm going to take 2 more and place them in front. You can even, if you want to, hype a little green stem in there. But I just want to go in here, make it so it's starting to kind of come over the side a little bit. So it gives us that look of that kind of gradual overhang. And again, if I need to build up the back a tiny touch, just go in and build up that area. Just nice and gentle. If you prefer, you can always load this into a bag and just cut off the end. Don't even need to use a tip if it's easier to just pipe these mounds. But I've got my spatula on hand and I find it easy enough to do with that little spatula without even getting another bag in the action. And there we go. That's looking beautiful. Now we're going to pull out our number 5 bag with our dark green, and we're going to do just a little piping. I'm going to look at the kind of flow of this stem and just kind of imagine where the end is going to go. We're going to place 1 more blossom right here. So we want to go kind of out past this and just kind of glide right there, just to give ourselves a little bit of motion. And I want to put a nice little bud or 2 here on the end. So remember those little 3 teardrops that we did? Nice and tight, nice and big, right on top of each other. It's going to look like we have some unopened little buds here on the end. Gorgeous. You can always add more too. I like to do things in 3s and uneven numbers. Beautiful. Once we've got that spot prepared, we're going to put 1 blossom right there. I'm also going to sandwich 1 right back here. So I just want to pull a little bit of green off this back just to kind of make that sense. So that little blossom will cover the back area for the most part and also will make sense for us. We've got our surface prepped. We've started our little cascade of blossoms and we're going to put on some little finishing touches. So you can use more pink or you can use your green, but I'm just going to give myself a little dot here. So think fresh buttercream for my flowers to stick to. And I'm just going to pick my little favorite blossom from the ones that remain and stick it on right there. And I just want to make sure I like the orientation and the arrangement. There we go. Maybe smash it a little that way so we get a nice flow there. And then I'm going to spin to the back and do the same thing. I'm just going to use a little bit of extra of my green just to make sure there's something fresh for this one to stick to. And I picked out one of the ones that was a little bit bigger because you're always going to have some variation on the size of your flowers. And I saved it for back here. And this will kind of sandwich in that back area and kind of cover up that mound. So it almost ends up being invisible. You can see we have a nice little cascade of orchids coming down there. To finish off our cake design, we're going to put some leaves down here. So I've got my nice little piped leaves all ready to go. And I think I'm going to do both of them on one side, but we'll see. I just want to give myself a little bit of buttercream here. And if you need to, hold them up so you can gauge where you need to put that buttercream. Maybe I'll do them 1 on each side. And just give yourself a little bit. It doesn't have to look pretty so that it has something to attach to. And really stick there for us. Beautiful, and don't worry about covering up your stem. And then we'll do one over here on the other side. So just coming out there. gorgeous. And that gives us those nice big fat leaves that you find at the bottom of our orchid plants. And here you can see we have our lovely little finished design. I used this nice kind of light berry pink. It has a bit of a mauve feel to it, and it's a nice contrast for all this green and yellow that we have in this cake. But remember, orchids come in a variety of different shades, color combos, and there's some really wild ones out there. So you can really have fun with the colors while using this exact same method. That's all for this lesson on our 3D orchid cake. If you enjoyed this, we recommend trying out our flower series video on orchids, where you can learn to make this one in just a bigger size and different colors. And if you'd like the fun little template that we used on our nail to help us with spacing, you can check out our video on the basics of using a flower nail. If you enjoyed this video and you'd like more about the cake decorating materials and equipment we use, or just some inspirational videos about cake decorating itself, you can follow us on Insta or YouTube at Cake Decorating School. If you'd like to know more about yearly membership and what it entails, you can go to www.cakedecoratingschool.com for more information. And if you're interested in these products, you can check the links in the description.